Becoming a US citizen. Wow. It's one of the biggest moments in anyone's life, right? It's the final chapter of what's often a really long and challenging journey. And that last step, that N-400 application, well, it can feel a little daunting. But you know what? That's exactly why we're here. In this explainer, we're going to break it all down for you, step by step, so you can get the clarity you need to cross that finish line. Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. What exactly is naturalization? You've probably heard the term, but it's really just the official name for the process that takes you from being a lawful permanent resident, yep, a green card holder, to a full U.S. citizen. You get all the rights, all the privileges, everything. It really is that finish line you've been working so hard for. So the big question is, are you ready to take that final step? Think of this as your personal guide. We're going to clear up the confusion and hopefully give you that confidence to just go for it. All right, here's our game plan, our roadmap for today. First, we'll tackle the biggest question. Are you even eligible? Then, we'll walk through the 5 steps of the application itself. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, costs and timelines. We'll also cover some common pitfalls you absolutely want to avoid. And finally, the best part, we'll talk about what it's like when you're officially a U.S. citizen. Okay, let's dive right in with the foundation of your entire application. Are you eligible? And I'm not kidding here, getting this part right from the very beginning is probably the single most important thing you can do to make sure this whole process goes smoothly. So here are the main things USCIS is going to look at. A few are obvious, right? You've got to be at least 18 years old and, of course, already be a green card holder. Now, the residency and physical presence rules are super important, and we're going to dig into those in just a second. You also have to have lived in your state or district for at least 3 months. Basically, they want to see you've put down some roots. Then there's this big one, good moral character. What does that mean? Well, it's the government's way of checking that you're an upstanding member of the community. Think paying your taxes, having a clean criminal record, and for men who lived in the U.S. between 18 and 26, it also means you registered for the Selective Service. And finally, you'll need to pass those English and U.S. Civics tests to show your commitment and your understanding of the country. Now listen up, because this is something a lot of people don't realize. The standard path for most folks is the 5-year rule. Simple enough. But look at this. If you've been married to and living with a U.S. citizen for the last 3 years, you might qualify for the 3-year rule. This can literally cut your wait time by almost half. It's a huge advantage if you're a marriage-based green card holder, so you definitely want to know about it. Okay, here's a detail that trips people up all the time. Continuous residence versus physical presence. I know, they sound almost the same, but they're totally different. Think of continuous residence as, where's your home base? It's about maintaining the U.S. as your primary home. And be careful, because a single trip abroad for more than 6 months can break this and completely reset your eligibility clock. Physical presence, on the other hand, is just a math problem. It's the literal number of days you were physically inside the U.S. You have to hit that minimum, 30 months for the 5-year rule or 18 months for the 3-year rule. No way around it. All right, so you've confirmed you're eligible. Awesome. What's next? Let's get into the practical stuff, the 5-step application process that's going to take you from filing all the way to that finish line. You know, when you see the whole journey laid out like this, it feels way more achievable, doesn't it? It really breaks down into 5 key moments. First, you prepare and file the N-400 form. Then, you'll go to a quick biometrics appointment. That's for your fingerprints and photo. After that, it's time to prepare for the main event, your interview and the tests. You pass that, and then you're at the final amazing step, taking the oath of allegiance. Okay, here's a pro tip, and trust me on this. Preparation is everything. Before you even think about filling out that online form, do yourself a huge favor and start getting these documents together. I'm serious. Everybody is going to need a copy of their green card, front and back, and your tax returns for the last 3 to 5 years. And hey, if you're applying under that special 3-year marriage rule we just talked about, you've got extra homework. You'll need proof of your spouse's citizenship and solid evidence that your marriage is the real deal. Think joint bank statements, apartment leases, car titles, that kind of stuff. All right, let's talk about the 2 questions I know are on everyone's mind. How much is this going to cost, and how long is it going to take? You can really think of this as planning the investment in your future. So here's the bottom line on cost, and it's a pretty clear choice. File online if you can. As of April 2026, it's $50 cheaper than filing by mail. But honestly, it's not just about saving money. USCIS itself officially recommends filing online because your application is way less likely to get lost in the mail, and it's just so much easier to track its progress. It's a total win-win. And hey, please know this, if that fee feels like a burden, there are options out there. Depending on your income or if you're facing a financial hardship, you might actually qualify for a reduced fee, or maybe even a full fee waiver. Seriously, don't let the cost be the thing that stops you from looking into this. So, what about the timeline? How long are we talking? Well, right now, the national median processing time is somewhere between 5.5 to 8 months, and that's from the day you file to the day you're taking that oath. But, and this is a big but, keep in mind that's just an average. Some field offices are way faster, some are slower. You can and you should check the specific processing times for your local office right on the USCIS website. Okay, let's switch gears to a super important section. We've talked about what to do, now let's talk about what not to do. Seriously, knowing these common pitfalls can save you from a denial, from losing your application fees, and just a ton of frustration. First big mistake, filing too early. I know you're excited, but listen to this. You're allowed to file up to 90 days before you hit your residency requirement, but not one single day sooner. If you file on day 91, it's an automatic denial, and you lose that application fee. Poof, gone. So please get out a calendar and count your days carefully. Mistake number 2 is breaking that continuous residence we talked about. Remember that? A single trip out of the country that lasts for more than 6 months can totally disrupt your eligibility. It can literally reset the clock on your 5 years or 3 years of waiting. So you have to be really, really mindful of your travel plans in the years leading up to your application. And mistake number 3, sending in incomplete evidence. This is a big one, especially if you have a more complicated case or if you're applying based on marriage. My advice, it is always better to provide too much evidence than not enough. Whether it's for your good moral character or proving your marriage is legit, don't make the USCIS officer have to guess. Over-prepare. Okay, and I have to say this, and it's absolutely critical. While we've laid out a really good overview here, this is not legal advice. Every single person's situation is unique. The one and only place you should consider your ultimate source of truth is the official USCIS website. That's uscis.gov. For the latest forms, the current fees, the specific rules, please always go there and double-check everything for yourself. So, after all that paperwork, all the studying, all the waiting, you make it. You go to that oath ceremony and it's official. Let's talk about that amazing outcome. You are a U.S. citizen. And with that comes a whole new set of rights and responsibilities. So what does it all mean, really? At the end of the day, what actually changes for you? Well, for one, you can apply for a U.S. passport and travel the world. You gain the fundamental right to vote, to have your voice heard in every election, from your local school board to the president. You can sponsor more of your family members to immigrate. You can be called to serve on a jury. You can even run for public office. These aren't just little things, they are powerful tools for you to shape your own future and the future of your community. So, let's end with this thought. After this whole long journey, after all your hard work, after you raise your hand and take that oath, what will be your very first act as a new U.S. citizen? Are you going to go register to vote, maybe apply for that passport for a trip you've been dreaming of? Whatever it is, the future is now yours to build. Good luck.